Good evening, everyone. Thanks all for joining in. Today is October the 17th, and as we had shared earlier, we have a special session with our guest speaker, Charu Aggarwal. And the special topic is what fuels domestic violence and what are the options for the defendant and the perpetrator. As most of you know, October is Domestic Violence Prevention Awareness Month. So it was very apt that we bring in this topic and answer the several questions which our audiences have shared. Welcome, Charu. Welcome to Sanjeevni's Facebook session once again.
Thank you, Pramila, and thank you again for having me today. And hello, everyone. We are going to be talking about Domestic Violence Awareness Month and also what domestic violence means, what the options are for people who are either in that situation or people who are the perpetrators. And we'll also talk about some of the resources towards the end of the presentation. Let me share my presentation. Thank you, Pramila.
Before we begin, Charu, I think there's a question which often we get from our audiences, which is domestic abuse. Is it spouses, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, or partners in same sex, or can it be any member from the household, parent, child, siblings? Can you please give just a brief explanation before proceeding?
Yes. So, Pramila, when we talk about domestic violence, we mean intimate partner relationship violence. Mostly it means, either a spouse or when you're in a relationship with somebody. But in many contexts, the domestic violence kind of extends to members of the household if you're living together with that person. Suppose, in many cultures, it will be the in-laws who are living with this person or not living with this person but are controlling the situation, where the perpetrator is actually the spouse but is being controlled by maybe other members of the household. Now, when the violence happened towards elders in the household, we call it elderly abuse. But when it is happening towards the young people and the household members are doing it, usually the intimate partner relationships are called domestic violence. But there are a lot of gray areas in this. It can be perpetrators, can be one person, but it can be fueled by many people in a cultural context.
Good.
And
Thank
I'll
you.
talk. Yes, thank you. And I'll talk a little bit about, what domestic violence means and what kind of abuses really mean domestic violence in my slides. So,
Thank you.
hello again, everyone. I'm Charu Aggarwal. I'm a principal at CASO LLC. I have worked with the survivors of domestic violence for many years. I have also worked in the mental health field and family strengthening programs, meaning programs that support the whole household, all the members of the household. With that, we start a presentation today. So, what really is domestic violence? So, domestic violence is a pattern of behavior used by one partner to maintain power and control over another partner in an intimate relationship. So, it can occur in any relationship, regardless of age, race, sex, gender, sexual orientation, or economic status. Often starts subtly, but it can escalate over time. And like I was mentioning before, usually domestic violence definition does mean that it is an intimate partner relationship, but in some cultural contexts, domestic violence can also mean, perpetrators can be other members of the family as well in the household. And it can be relationship violence, teens, non-teens just living in relationship with somebody else who's trying to exert their power and control over this person. So what are the types of domestic violence? Now, the obvious types, obviously, is physical abuse, which is visible. It involves any form of physical harm or threat, such as hitting, slapping, choking, using weapons, or the most common form is pushing, hitting, but it can escalate with time, and it can also result in visible injuries or even death. We see many times when people come to seek help, before they do come to seek help, they're always trying to hide bruises, either with makeup, wearing long sleeves, just trying to figure out what they can do about it or living in denial. It takes a lot of courage and guts to just seek help for any kind of abuse and even physical abuse. So some examples may be punching, kicking, burning. Burning is also very common, physical abuse in domestic violence, and restraining movements. Now, another kind of abuse, domestic violence, is emotional or psychological abuse. This is not very obvious to people from outside, but it is very much prevalent. So, what does it affect? It affects the mental health by undermining self esteem and self worth. The person is always gaslighting the other person, is controlling the other person psychologically, where they're harming the mental health of this person. Low self-esteem, they might be always blaming them for doing things wrong and saying, oh, you're not smart, you're dumb. Those kind of words are used a lot. Name calling, controlling who to see or talk to. Many times when, for example, when let's give an example of a woman here, because in domestic violence we see a lot of women more than men suffering domestic violence, although it is prevalent in both the sexes. And so what happens is that many times we'll see that a man, if he is the perpetrator, he is controlling the woman by isolating her, not keeping the relationships with her family, not making phone calls or being able to communicate, controlling the social media, and so forth. Threatening, gaslighting, undermining their, whatever the other person is saying, and that is psychological abuse. Now, the other type of domestic violence is also sexual abuse. Again, any non-consensual sexual activity, manipulation related to sexual acts can mean sexual abuse. It can, for example, it can be rape, marital rape, forcing sexual acts or sexual humiliation, and denying contraception or reproductive rights, or denying, checkups, by denying people to go to doctors for regular checkups for these kind of, bodily harms. So the other one is financial abuse. That also is very, very common in domestic violence, controlling or limiting access to financial resources, making the victim financially dependent. Controlling all money, refusing access to bank accounts, preventing employment, accumulating debt in victims' names. These are some of the common things that we see under financial abuse of a person. Now, many times a person will not leave, and it could be a man or a woman, whoever is battered, and or surviving the domestic violence, is the person who is being financially abused, meaning, very common financial abuse that we see, especially with the immigrant community. In the immigrant community is visa. This person has no visa to work in this country, and then it becomes really hard for them to actually go out, seek employment, make their own money, and they are financially controlled by the abuser. Now, this person can also financially control the abuser by controlling their financial bank accounts, by not giving them access to their own bank accounts. They might have had money before, before the abuse started, or their own personal money from their own earnings. It doesn't always mean that this person doesn't have a job. Sometimes they can be very well employed and still be financially abused. They have no control over their own money. So, how do you recognize the signs of domestic violence? Unexplained injuries or frequent medical issues. Now, this is something that people can see from outside when a coworker arrives with bruises on a regular basis to work and tries to hide those bruises. It could mean domestic violence. Withdrawal from family or friends. If family and friends don't really hear from this person, they should be worried. They should ask questions. And sudden changes in behavior, anxiety, depression, the person starts being sad all the time, is losing sleep, is, sometimes maybe turning to alcohol or drugs or substance abuse of that manner. Controlling behavior from partner, jealousy, possessiveness, which also could be visible, especially in gatherings. So those are some of the signs which kind of speak of domestic violence. how do you get help when somebody is surviving domestic violence or battered at home? How do you get help for this person or for yourself? Contact domestic violence hotlines or shelters for immediate assistance. Now, there are many domestic violence hotlines and shelters which are also culturally sensitive, linguistically sensitive. They're all confidential. So if you call, let's say, a national hotline, and I'll share the numbers and websites a little bit later in this presentation. But if you call a national hotline and suppose you are a Hindi speaker and you would like to be connected to a South Asian domestic violence shelter or domestic violence services, finding advocates who speak your language, they will be able to assist you because they have all the information. If you have access to Google, you can look for appropriate domestic violence shelters, organizations, hotlines which serve your needs online. But domestic violence hotlines are all confidential. They will not save your numbers, they will not call you back, and it will all be kept confidential. Create a safety plan. Now, have a plan for leaving. If the domestic violence is something that cannot be, you know, it's scary. It's scary for a person to be in a domestic violence situation. If you plan on leaving, have a good concrete plan for leaving. Identify safe places. It could be a friend, it could be an aunt, it could be a member at the church, a temple, or a shelter. Domestic violence shelters also house people in transitional housing for a few months till people can actually get onto their own feet. Safe place, and those are safe places. Make a list of safe places. Keep it on hand. Keep the phone numbers. Keep the websites. And many of these places now have text service. Again, text is confidential. They will not be saving the text. And you can just text them and find out if they can take you or what kind of support or help these places can give you. Prepare emergency bags. Like, we prepare emergency bags if in case there's a fire, there's an earthquake, if you live in one of those areas. For now, the hurricane and all, people were encouraged to prepare emergency bags. Just like that, when you have a safety plan in a domestic violence situation, an emergency bag, prepare an emergency bag, keep, clothing, some essentials, medication, maybe keep a small notebook with all the phone numbers that you might need if you don't have a cell phone on you. Even if you do have a cell phone, you might want to still write down some of the important phone numbers when you carry that bag with you. Keep some emergency batteries for your phones, reading glasses, or even your looking glasses. Keep an extra pair. All those essentials. Create an emergency bag in case you have to make an exit all of a sudden and quickly. Document abuse. Now, keep the records of incidents if possible. Write it down in a notebook, jot it down on a piece of paper, hide it somewhere. Keep the photos, messages, medical reports, either in that bag or online. It is, when you're filing for a restraining order, so to say. Like, what is a restraining order? When you want the person to stay away from you, you can actually go to a family court and request a restraining order for yourself. If you feel, for example, if you feel threatened by this person and do not want this person to approach you. And family advocates can help you. When you call those hotlines and when you go meet with an advocate or a counselor, they can help you get a restraining order. If you go to the court, there are advocates available there who can help you get a restraining order against your perpetrator. And the perpetrator can also be a stalker. That's a little different, but in those situations also a restraining order can be obtained. Reach out, speak to trusted friends, family, or professionals for support. If you have, friends you can trust, talk to them about what's going on in your life. If you have family members, let them, and you trust them, let them know about your exit plan. Tell them that, you're planning to leave, or just make them your allies if you're planning to get some help. or just to talk, just have confide in some people and make them your supporters in this situation. Ask professionals for support if you feel like you need professional help. There is so much, again, I can't say enough, but there's a lot of professional help available for people who are in domestic violence situations. There are many shelters, again, culturally and linguistically appropriate shelters. Also, think about, when you go to a shelter, you need to cook food. You might have some restrictions. All those cases are now shelters will honor all those needs, and will are very appropriately designed to help you. And are professionals for support. Suppose you have a therapist, and again, talk to the domestic violence agencies. They can sometimes help you get, if you're going through a psychological and emotional abuse, or any kind of abuse is actually leads to psychological and emotional abuse, even if it's physical, financial, sexual abuse. They might be able to get you into therapy, and which is free. So your abuser can't see it on the insurance, and that is some kind of a professional help one should be looking into if there is domestic violence in your life. Seek legal protection. Restraining orders, like I mentioned before, legal help may be necessary. Make a plan from where you will receive legal protection. Every city, every county has legal aid societies now, or some law foundations, or legal entities that help people who are going through domestic violence pro bono, or for a very sliding scale fee. Look for those. Make a list of places where you can get legal protection from, or legal help from. And a lot of times, those counseling sessions, the first few counseling sessions, are free, or a domestic violence agency can help you get legal help. And this is even more critical for people who are in this country as immigrants. It is very, very critical to make a list of what you need to do if you leave, if and when you decide to leave, what you need to do, and what kind of visa you are on, what support you will need to legally stay in this country. All those can be sorted out by legal agencies for you. Now, what are the national resources? There are national, there are local, there are city level resources that are now available for domestic violence, for people who are in domestic violence, and also available for batterers. If they're, if somebody has anger management issues and cannot control themselves and is abusive towards others, there are court mandated classes for sure. If there's if this person is found guilty of abusing someone, or the court can mandate them to take batterers classes, some therapy, counseling sessions, etc. But there are many agencies providing help to people for their anger management, for their, many times it's a cycle. The violence is a cycle. You've seen it happen before in your family, and you're kind of carrying it to in your life. So those things can be helped by therapists, and those are easily available too. Call National Domestic Violence Hotline. They can help you. They can connect you to your local resources. And again, I'm doing this presentation today for Sanjeevani for You. Sanjeevani for You is available in Chicago area, or I think even nationally, to help people in domestic violence cases. They can also help people in lots of other areas, which include not just support with domestic violence and how to leave a violent relationship, but also with mental health resources. With therapists, they have free medical clinics all the time in the area, and they have hotlines, and they also have, and I'm sure Pramila will speak a little bit more later on about Sanjeevani for You, but they also have access to some shelters in the area. Love is Respect, and that is another domestic violence hotline. Womenslaw.org, which serves people nationally. Asian Pacific Institute on Gender-Based Violence. Then there's National Human Trafficking Hotline. And human trafficking, also we see sometimes people are brought in this country on pretenses that they are brought to this country to, let's say for a good job. And when they arrive over here, they see actually they're not in a good job, but they're actually, a person might marry this person and bring them here because of the visa situation. And they might end up in a very abusive relationship. There is National Human Trafficking Hotline as well. They can be brought as a house worker, on a pretenses of another job, and that may qualify as human trafficking. LGBTQ plus specific resources are also available. Again, these are some important, this slide has all the important phone numbers, websites. You can take a screenshot of this, and if you are, you have Google, you have even like AI support, you can kind of get all these phone numbers from there, and many, many, many more. I didn't really put all the phone numbers here because then my slides would go on forever, but there's a lot of help available if you are in that situation. And thank you. I am open to any questions you might have. Pramila?
Yeah, thank you so much, Charu. I know we had our audiences provide some questions in advance, and I'll go through with it. But to audiences or our friends watching through Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook, Sanjeevani for You works in two areas: mental health and domestic abuse. We have two helplines. We've also put it in the chat. We also have a tech service. We have a free clinic, free walk-in clinic in Schaumburg, in one of the suburbs of Chicago City. And yes, we are nationally. Anyone can call us anytime, and we are available 24 by 7. And Charu, problems, issues like these do not come Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We realize that any conversations we have, like any non for profit organization, is confidential, and the services are by trained team. We work with 6 different shelters here in the uh, larger Chicagoland area, Charu. So, there are victims who come there, which we help to rehabilitate. But the thing is, abuse in any form is degenerative to the human race. And many a times, I should say, many a times women come and say that, the verbal communication they receive from their partners is abusive. And when they retaliate against that, they are told, well, I was just saying, I didn't hit you, I didn't do anything. And Charu, you did point out that verbal abuse is a type of abuse. What can such what can such women or men tell their respective partners?
So, very good question, Pramila. And verbal abuse is a very, hard abuse to really give a name to. Many times we see, and most of the cases, verbal abuse is very, very prevalent. It's very much present. So I think communication is the key in helping your spouse understand how verbal abuse can trigger emotional and psychological distress. Use I statements. Tell your spouse that his or her words are hurting you, and say, use I statements. When I say use I statements, I mean, say, I feel hurt. What does that verbal abuse do to you? Make them understand how deeply your emotional well-being is impacted when that verbal abuse is coming towards you. Set boundaries. Let them know that language or tone that they're using is unacceptable. Establish very clear boundaries. And when I say establish boundaries for them, and also for yourselves. Decide what is enough for you and how you are going to help them change or just take the next step. Suggest counseling. Many times verbal abuse is it's a cycle of abuse, right? People learn it before. It's generational. Many times we see domestic abuse is generational. Men will learn it from their fathers. Women will learn to be submissive from their mothers and not talk about domestic violence that's going on in their lives. So try to end that cycle of abuse by suggesting therapeutic services, such as counseling. It may involve a third party, such as a therapist or a counselor, can facilitate a more constructive conversation. A person like a stranger can facilitate a more constructive, conversation for your spouse. It's easier to talk to strangers and professionally get professional help. Provide tools for better communication. A group therapy might be present. Maybe Sanjeevani is doing a workshop on group therapy or just how to manage your anger. Those are some
Yeah,
of the.
Sanjeevani has a support group every month. It has been running for 5 years. It's first Saturday of each month from 1 to 2. So again, anyone who knows someone who needs that, they can always join. It's in a confidential setting by a specialist in domestic abuse.
Thank you,
Thank
Pramila. There's only one more thing I'll mention over here to educate your spouse on the triggers. What things
you.
trigger you? What bring forward your traumas from the past, and tell them about it. Talk to them about it if they're open to communication.
And we also want to let all our audiences who are watching or they know someone, safety is extremely important. Anytime someone is in danger of their life, we always recommend call 911. That is the safest way to be assured of any danger one might have. We have 4 more minutes. I just have one concluding question. You mentioned that sometimes abuse is generational. Uh, a child sees their father or mother behaving in a certain way, or that the son or the daughter will think, well, this is okay, this is how I should be continuing. So kids are also affected. What are some of the ways that the perpetrator or the defendant can avoid this for their children?
So that again is a very good question, Pramila. We see a lot of children affected by domestic abuse if it is happening towards their mother or father or their parent or caregiver inside the house. The first thing that we tell people is provide a safe space for the kids. Create a secure and a nurturing environment for children to express their emotions and ask questions. Do not make sure the children are safe at all the times. Get help. Seek professional counseling and help if your child has either witnessed domestic violence in your home, and create healthier environments for both yourself and your children. Seek help for yourself if you want to help your kids not witness domestic violence and live in a healthy environment at home. Open communication. Keep all the avenues of communication open with your children. Be willing to answer their questions. Be willing to provide them with a safe and a secure place, but also at the same time with the confidence that they can ask you questions about the domestic abuse that's going on at home, the conflict. Do not blame them for the conflict, because I think many times we see that people will blame children for the conflict that's going on in their life. It's like, oh, I would have left if I didn't have the burden of my children. But that's not the case. So make sure you never kind of participate in that kind of behavior. Set an example. Work on breaking the cycle by ensuring healthy communication and non-violent conflict resolution in your home. Sit down, talk to your spouse, and get help for your children and get help for yourself. It's very important to break that intergenerational trauma, because the research shows, especially when you see in the males, when they see their dads as batterers, they will grow up to be abusers, and most of the cases, not all. And even girls, when they see their mother being abused, they will grow up to kind of tolerate abuse at the higher levels. So it's
Thank you
upon
so
you.
much, Jack. Yeah. So, once again, October is Domestic Abuse Prevention Awareness Month. The reason we are having this session that we want to educate, we want to empower anyone who may have gone through with it, or if they know someone who's going through with it. Give this information, share with them. Sometimes talking helps a lot. Lend them their shoulder or your time. Call any trusted organization or a trusted friend. Charu did share a list of numbers. They're also listed on many websites. We will also share it on our Facebook. Thank you, Charu, once again. And we hope everyone is safe not only today, this October, but all the days.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Thank
Charu,
you.
for your time.
Thank you, Pramila. Stay safe, everyone. Bye.